Just listen to that throaty burble of the exhaust and open it up on the straight. Oh, the character.
Looking for that vintage flame, but all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I
These are the original cassettes, the original owner of the car. The Beatles, 5 days ago, I got an email from a local of Tenerife, and he said to me, Freddie, I've just been to a motorcycle dealership in the north of Tenerife, and there's a classic 1960s Triumph in the showroom available for sale. He brushed over the fact, very briefly, that he also owned a 1980 Alfa Romeo Alfasud Sprint Veloce. Well, I couldn't believe it. It's a car I've known about for a while, but I've never actually knowingly seen it in the flesh. So I said, Andres, is there any way I could borrow your Sprint Veloce just for an afternoon? And luckily his English is significantly better than my Spanish, and he agreed to lend it to me for the afternoon. If I give you a bit of background, in the late 1960s, Alfa Romeo wanted to build a relatively sensible family hatchback. So they came up with the Alfa Romeo Alfasud. The only problem was they needed a lot of money, so they asked the Italian government for a cash injection to be able to fund the production of the car. The Italian government said yes, of course, but with one stipulation. In order to level up Italy, we need you to build all of the cars, the Alfa Romeo Alfasud and the Alfasud Sprint, which this is, down in the south of Italy in Napoli. Alfa Romeo reluctantly agreed, and this, the Alfasud and the Alfasud Sprint, were the first ever cars built in Alfa Romeo's Napoli plant. This exact model, as I've said, is a 1980 model. It's the Alfa Romeo Sprint, and the Sprint is the sporty coupe version of the Alfa Romeo Alfasud family hatchback. If we do a quick front to back and just look at it, in fact, if I keep you there, this has a good amount of weight behind it. Alfa Romeo weren't messing around. They hired Giugiaro to design the car, and he's been responsible for the likes of the Mark I Golf, the Maserati Merak, the DeLorean, and also the Fiat Panda. So they got him on board. They also poached one of the key engineers from Fiat, which Fiat were furious about, and they came up with this. I mean, it's just Italian design at its best. If you look front to back, everywhere you look, it's understated, it's beautifully proportioned, and all of the lines are just so stunningly elegant with those quad lights at the back, the wedge chopped out of the back, and every single bit, whether it's front, back, or inside, is a work of art. Monica, I have to show you something in the back of the car that you haven't seen yet. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Come have a look. Okay, I've been shown where all the levers are, so I now know, without any issue at all, where the lever is for the boot and the bonnet. Okay, if I just open that up, first of all, old car smell. Oh, okay, everything is original, everything is intact. I mean, just look at this for a time warp. Now, Monica, you haven't seen this. This is a 1980s car, and the owner, Andres, found this in the boot of the car.
Oh, wow.
These are the original cassettes from the original owner of the car, the Beatles, 1962 to 1966.
Oh, that's incredible.
Let me show one more. Siembra así, Rosana. Okay, maybe I don't know that one, but this is some kind of just incredible time warp Sprint Veloce. Okay, that's that. Just have a look though, just while I've got you here, at the condition of the car. There's no rust that I can see anywhere. It really is glorious, and this is a testament to how amazing, for cars like this to survive, and I'll get onto it later, you need to either have them in some kind of humidity controlled room, or you need to live in Tenerife. This car itself, before we head off onto the road, it is the range-topping 1.5 litre petrol engine, 94 rampant Italian horses. It's 915 kilos. It is, of course, a carbed car, and this is the sporty version of the Sud. What you're looking at here is the pinnacle of the Alfa Romeo Alfasud sprints. Shall we go for a ride?
Yes.
Or a drive? I'm too used to motorcycle talk. I keep doing that. Right, let's start this up. In fact, Monica, can you see the cockpit from that wide angle?
Yes.
It's just the most simple, glorious place to be. Look at the chrome. It's so perfectly beautiful. Just the sliced stitching on the brown background there. The chrome here, beautiful 3-prong steering wheel. I've got speedo here, rev counter here, fuel gauge, and that is about it. Oh, I've got temperature as well. Little clock here from Jaeger. The original Pioneer tape deck here with just a few fan settings here and the word sprint just here above. The glove box the glove box is still in one piece. Fans, fans, fans. And have a look at the roof lining as well, Monica. And just, I know you can't obviously smell it on video, but that's that old car smell. And look at this, wait. If I may get in my Italian zone, I've got my sunglasses, I've got my cigarette lighter here. Okay, and start up. It's panicking there. Wait, listen to this. Ooh, it's just got this lovely raspy note to it. Okay. Actually, I should say seating position. My legs are perfect like this, but I can barely reach the steering wheel. I'll have to probably get a bit closer. Okay, I won't be able to get out now, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's such... I feel about 10 times cooler just being in this car now. Okay, right. Pickup is absolutely beautiful. Straight off, obviously no power steering at all. Responsive, beautiful. Immediately, it's just so easy to drive. Great size for these small roads of Tenerife as well. It feels like it's been tailor-made to just enjoy these 30, 40, 50 mile an hour sweeping bends. This exact car was bought in 1980 by a lady owner who lived in a town about 10 miles from where we are now, La Orotava. She owned it for 38 years. She then sold it to a local gentleman for 2 years before selling it to Andres, the current owner. In its life, as far as I can figure out, it's had one respray to the exterior of the car, but everything else, including the floor pan, is original condition. When the Alfasud and the Alfasud Sprint came out in 1976 for the Sprint, it was, by the motoring journalists, universally raved at about the handling and driving dynamics. And even now, 42 years on since this exact car was made, it's a joy to drive. It's so responsive, and the handling, even at 42 years old, is genuinely enjoyable. Yeah, the brakes feel their age a bit, but the suspension, it soaks up all of the imperfections, still gives you feedback on the road, and genuinely, you look forward to the bends. Even on a car this old, the handling is good enough to properly be able to attack the bend, carry on accelerating, and just listen to that throaty burble of the exhaust and open it up on the straight. Oh, the character. Every single second with this car, coming from 5th down to 4th, attack a bend, pushing it a bit. Oh, it's glorious. And straight into the back of that Hyundai. Having fun all the way. It's an amazing experience, it really is, to be able to drive an Alfa Romeo, and one like this, which is the first ever, I should say, the last ever Alfa Romeo Coupe that was made before Alfa Romeo was bought by by Fiat. So this is the final ever Alfa Romeo coupe, while Alfa Romeo was its own individual entity.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I dream on to someday find that vintage love. I kept on looking, but everyone's such a bore. And out of a sudden, you came through the door. At the next table, you're whisking neat. The lights were dimmed as our eyes met, moves on me. And forevermore, I like to share that vintage dream.
This may be one of the best handling cars of the 1970s, and it may have that glorious Italian design, but there were a few very key problems with the Alfasud Sprint, and most of those come from the fact that it was built in Naples, southern Italy, 300 miles away from Alfa Romeo's headquarters, and key to that, a long way from all of the expertise over in Milan. So these cars were built by a largely unskilled workforce in Naples, a good chunk of whom came from farms and were farmers, and who, once they'd earned enough money from building Alfa Romeos, they go on 6-week holidays. So you had unskilled labour, you had staff who wanted to go on 6-week holidays, and this is the big issue, the steel used to build the Alfasuds was recycled Russian steel, exposed to the elements in the salty Napoli air, with a workforce that didn't understand anything about rust proofing, meant that often these cars were built with steel that had already started to rust. There are so many horror stories about these cars and the rust issues that I couldn't even begin to list them. But to give you a few examples, many of these cars had rusted so badly that in the 3 years since taking ownership from private individuals, 3 years after buying them, they had to be uneconomical write-offs, actually written off. There are stories of people buying the car and a week later seeing surface rust on the exterior of the cars. If you lived anywhere that rained even slightly, these would rust before your eyes. This car, as I previously said, has been resprayed a couple of years ago, but all of the inner panels are completely original. So what this shows is that it is possible to buy one of these cars and it not have completely disintegrated. Take a look at the inside of the panels here. I was completely amazed. I assumed it must have had a complete, full, bare bones restoration, but all of the sills, all of the panels, wherever you look, whether it's on the bonnet, in fact I have to show the bonnet as well, just to prove that these can actually last. I love the bonnet mechanism as well. Little lever there, incredibly civilized. Lift up the bonnet, and it's just so smooth. And to put it back down, I'll show you, it's equally as smooth, but have a look at this. Look at the engine bay. I mean, how has that not been restored? It is in stunningly good condition. I can't even see any surface corrosion anywhere. If you look in all of the nooks and crannies, but there, at least you get a view here of the engine. But we have proof here, not all Alfasud Sprints corrode. I'll show you how this works as well, because this is surprisingly elegant. You don't need to worry about smashing the bonnet down. Put the bonnet like that. So nice. First time I've ever been to this service station in Tenerife. I always go on about it. Tenerife service stations are second to none. They've all got their own character, they've all got great food, and classic Tenerifan style. You never know exactly what you're going to get with the cappuccinos. This one is half cream and a little bit of coffee. I've never had anything like it, but service is always brilliant. Table service, lovely friendly staff, and this one, one of the finest sunset spots that we've seen on the island, with those traditional old Canarian houses just perched on the hillside. I had a look everywhere I possibly could, on all of the forums, on every single website that I could find, to see how many Alfa Romeo Alfasud Sprints are still available in the UK, or still in existence in the UK. And as far as I can tell, there are around 40 survivors, which in itself is incredible when you consider that most of them were rusting away 3 weeks after being purchased by their first owners. If you want to buy one in the UK, you can't, and I really do mean you can't. There are 0 available for sale anywhere in the UK. You cannot do it. You have to go to mainland Europe if you want to actually buy one. There was an article in 2013 from Classic Car magazine where they quoted £3,750 for a concourse condition price of an Alfa Romeo Alfasud. That's the price you should have paid in 2013 for a concourse one. However, now, 9 years later, that £3,750 is now £14,000 plus for a very good condition Alfasud. So the prices, despite the rust issues, the prices are going very, very strongly north in quite quick fashion now. So I really think we may now be in 2022 at one of the final stages when we're in at least the rough realms of affordability. In reality, you're going to need probably £7,000 to £15,000 for a goodish to excellent condition. Driving a car like this, you realise how characterful the old cars are. And the fact that this one is a 1970s, 1980s piece of Italian design, you can't help it. You honestly feel 10 times cooler driving this. I feel like if I'm not dressed up absolutely on point every time I get in this car, then I'm doing this car a disservice. Just stepping into it, smelling all of that history and going for a drive into the mountains or even along the motorway, window wound down a little bit, some music playing. It is a pricelessly brilliant experience. I've had it for about 3 hours now. In fact, I'm about an hour over, so I need to rush it back. But every single second with this car has been a complete joy. This car, maybe if I'm honest, not in the cities, because the clutch is a bit heavy, there's no power steering. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't absolutely recommend it for in the cities, but when you're out on the open roads or you've just got it out for a Sunday drive, it is a gloriously beautiful experience. I mean, yes, it's flawed with the rust issues, but this is proof they don't all need to rust away. And so long as you're sensible and you only ever take it out on a nice dry summer's day with absolutely no chance of rain, or you live in Tenerife, or you have a humidity controlled room to keep it in, then you've got years and years of incredible motoring ahead. Plus the fact that this must be one of the appreciating classics from the 1980s. Huge thank you to Andres, who lent me this car for the day. You really have got this car in the most glorious place to enjoy it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this car-related video. Please do give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.